Judge's side job as an actor and stand-up comic raises ethical questions. The state's highest court ruled he cannot do both. That left him with a difficult decision: the stage or the bench. He shares his choice with our Terrell Brown.
Vince Soraci has been living something of a double life. Municipal court judge by day, stand-up comedian by night.
Wow, isn't it terrible with being bald and white and looking like the guy in the Amber Alert poster every time?
Is it really possible to separate the careers and the identities?
I absolutely believe that. I believe what I do on stage is an act. It's a performance.
But Thursday, he got word that if he wanted to continue serving on the bench, handling misdemeanors like traffic tickets and restraining orders, he'd have to give up the limelight.
Some hurricanes are even racist. Hurricane Sandy, the hurricane itself, was racist, right? What did it hit? Atlantic City, Jersey Shore, Hoboken, Staten Island. I know a mob hit when I see one.
In a 30-page decision, the New Jersey Supreme Court ruled that Soraci's acting and comedy career were incompatible with the Code of Judicial Conduct.
The Supreme Court is telling me, so long as you're doing both, you can't be a judge.
And you chose comedy.
Yes.
In addition to his stand-up, Soraci has appeared on ABC's hidden camera show, What Would You Do?, where paid actors do outrageous things to capture people's reactions.
All we wanted to do was shop.
Yeah, shoplift, not shop. Come on.
In this episode, he plays a store security guard racially profiling black customers.
Do I have to spell it out? What do I need, Ebonics? Come on.
Off-color bits like that led the justices to conclude that such humor by a sitting judge has the clear capacity to demean his judicial office and cast doubt on the judge's ability to act impartially.
That's a character I'm playing on TV. If I was in Pirates of the Caribbean, would you think I was a pirate?
Still, Soraci says he accepts the ruling. He's officially stepped down from the bench and plans to focus full-time on his career in entertainment.
Something as prestigious as being a judge. You know what? I'll forego that to chase this dream.
And so for all of this, it's worth it.
Absolutely.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Judge Vinny. I am Judge Vinny, Vince August, and this episode, we're calling this one street cleaning because there is a street that needs to be cleaned, and that street is Wall Street. We might be a little bit late to this party and jumping in on what happened with GameStop and AMC and Wall Street Bets and Reddit and everything else, but we want to take this from a fresh perspective. First of all, we're going to have two people that were personally affected by what happened. And then I have a different perspective on it, which is the reaction from the people that represent us and whether or not there was even a reaction. So what happened with Robinhood? What happened with Reddit? Well, what was happening was they wanted to stop the chatter on Reddit because all of the people were saying, hey, don't sell back to these people. I'm telling you, the stock is going to go up. So the first thing we had to do is we had to shut those people up and say, hey, listen, you shut up. You mind your own business. Okay, that stock is going to go down. It's got to go down because I want it to go down. I need it to go down. But we had to stop that communication first because we're saying they're colluding against me. They're all conspiring against me to make me lose money. Or are they conspiring against me to make me lose money? Or are they just trying to make money themselves? That's the first big question. Now, the second thing that happens is there's, let's say, a website that trades these stocks. Imagine if they turned around and said, all right, listen, we're going to limit the activity on this stock to prevent me from losing more money. So as the stock's going up, I go to Robinhood and say, hey, listen, Robinhood, we do a lot of business together, right? Like whenever something's happening, you give me information. Now, I wouldn't say that Robinhood and these hedge funds are in bed together, but they're certainly in the same house together, okay? Because Robinhood gives information based upon what people are trading on their website to these hedge funds and say, look, this is what all of the tendencies are showing, just so you know. Is it insider information? Not really. I guess it's not illegal. But when you start to limit the activity with regards to that stock to protect me, that I'm going to deem, Judge Vinny's going to put on his lawyer hat, that's illegal. Because now I'm telling the people that own the stock in an open market, you're not allowed to do with that stock what the stock market says you're allowed to do it. My issue with all of this is, what did our Congress, senators, what did our representatives do? What did they say? Or more importantly, what did they not say when all of this was happening? What was our media doing? What was our media saying when all of this was happening? That was the thing that really caught me. That was the stuff that bothered me the most. So let me bring in my legal intern, Michael Soraci. Michael, welcome back into my chambers. I have to tell you, the thing that was getting me during all of this was, look, we've heard from Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and many of our representatives for years tell us how Wall Street needs to be regulated. Wall Street needs to be drawn in. The SEC needs to do its job. And in the end, our Congress people, our senators, they didn't do anything to make this happen. They didn't do anything to teach this lesson to Wall Street. It was this company, Wall Street Bets. It was Reddit. And what reaction have our Congress people had to all of this, if any? Have you seen Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren jumping all over this story?
No, I think you have people who have constantly given their input into Wall Street being quiet, and then you have people who are currently giving their input, like AOC, being polarizing. You know, we saw the tweet from Ted Cruz who's saying we need to do something about this. And for once, I felt that we might have some unity across the aisle.
That's all we've heard.
In terms of that.
All we've heard is unity. We're going to have unity. And here was the thing that killed me. And I'm so glad you brought up that point. So here's that point for people that missed that. So Ted Cruz's reaction to all of this is he puts up that emoji, the smiley, not the smiley face, but the emoji. And then AOC puts up, "This is unacceptable." That's it. This is unacceptable. And then what happens? Ted Cruz says, "Look, I agree with AOC." We have Ted Cruz and AOC on the same page for the first time. And what does AOC do? Does she take this opportunity and say, "Hey, look, you know what? Let's be honest. I don't like you, Ted. We don't get along. We don't agree. You're not the type of person I want to sit down with and have a cup of coffee with. But when we can protect people, let's do it." Is that what she does, Michael? No. What does she do? She goes to war with him.
Yeah, she accused him of trying to murder her because of his, election conspiracy theories. And the thing is that I totally agree with her. Like, I actually agree with her sentiment. I like where she's coming from. I like that she's trying to express it. But to use those words at this time, it just seemed like almost immature, I guess, and disappointing for me as someone who is happy to see the Democrats take power this time around and and hopeful. It was disappointing for sure.
It's like that wasn't the time to do that. Okay, look, You're going to have plenty of time to do that. We have an impeachment coming up. You're going to have all kinds of time to get those statements out. We have an impeachment trial coming. I mean, you're going to have the opportunity to say all of these things. And maybe she's not on the Senate committee. She's not going to have an opportunity. But we know she's going to tweet about it. We know she's going to have her Instagram people, she's going to have her Instagram video and comment on it. This was not that time. This was the time to say, "Hey, look, you know what? I don't like you. I don't like what you say. I don't like what you do. But here we have to work together." I mean, am I crazy saying this?
No, and the thing is that everyone is in agreement, I think, that with Cruz and AOC here, with the idea that something's fishy. And then what you're doing when you tweet something like that is you're just pushing people away and you're diverting from the issue.
You divert from the issue. Exactly. You're diverting from the issue. So we were talking about this. We were making progress on it, and you make it about something else. And look, Michael, we've had an opportunity. We've been getting to know each other. What does what does Vince August hate more than anything else? What is my one pet peeve? What drives me nuts?
Bad comparisons.
Oh, the false equivalence. I can't. So what do we have? We have CNBC right now. They actually had a host compare this to the insurrection on January 6th. Can you imagine that? That people are saying, "Hey, listen, stand your ground. Don't let someone else beat you on this, okay? We're going to make money. We're all going to work out of this better than we would than the normal beating we take on a short sale. They call that an insurrection. CNN actually the first day released an article calling the reaction by the Reddit users as Trumpism, which is the other thing that we do. Whenever something bad happens, what's the first thing we do now, Michael? Attach it to Trump in some type of way.
Yeah.
What did Trump have anything to do with this based on what you've seen and research?
Nothing. It's
Nothing.
it's an internet effect. It's just one of those random occurrences that I don't think you can really attribute to anyone.
I mean, Elizabeth Warren comes out and actually, hold on, I have to read her quote here. This is what we need a market that is transparent, that's level and open to individual investors. And she promises a probe. Okay, well, that pretty much flies in the face of everything that happened. So we have this market. We have people investing in the market, and then Robinhood comes in and says, we're going to limit you. And then they deplatform Reddit and say, listen, Discord, you got to deplatform them because we don't want them exchanging information. What more does Elizabeth Warren need? What am I missing here?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the first thing that comes to my mind when you say that is we need transparency, right? And we have these representatives who have constantly given their input, constantly explained to us how they see things, and then now there's no transparency because they're not saying anything. So the only way we can understand it is through Reddit and through different articles. And obviously, you know how it goes when you go on the internet. I can read, a million different versions of what just happened, depending on whatever website I click on. So now we're looking to our elected officials to explain things to us, and some of them are silent, and other ones are just being like radical. So
yeah. So we either have, you know what, we're going to look into this. We need to delve into it. We need to do an investigation. Elizabeth Warren, I want those Robinhood people in front of me. I'm going to ask them some questions. Really? No. There should be outrage with regards to this. I mean, the fact that Senator Sanders is not using this as an opportunity to trounce Wall Street. This is his whole thing. He should have been sitting back saying, oh, here it is. I've been dying for this. I finally got my thing. Here it is. But who's saying things about this? Mark Cuban, David Portnoy. And you know what? I bring up David Portnoy for a specific reason, Michael, because look, the two people that we work with on this show, Jess Miller, our producer director, and your lifelong friend, our clerk, Ben Goodfriend, they were personally involved with this situation. Jess is going to tell us exactly what happened with her. But I mean, look, she's got a beef with Robinhood. Ben, also involved with Robinhood, has a different take on it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk to Jess and Ben. You hang out, take notes on this, because then we're going to talk about who we think may have a better argument here and really might be right and who may be a little bit off the mark. So hang out in my office. We're going to bring in Jess and Ben. Jess, Ben, come into chambers. We got to have this out. I know the two of you are dying to get into this. Jess, first of all, welcome finally to my chambers.
Thanks, Judge Vinny.
Yes, you've been on the other side in the courtroom, always managing the tapes and the video, making sure that everything is done right.
It's a hard knock
welcome. Yes. So welcome to being in the office. And Ben, as always, great to see you, Ben. Everyone, this is going to get a little testy. I'm going to tell you right now, because Jess has a personal story to share about her experience with GameStop, and it's not just about, hey, I got a couple bucks in here and there. So Jess, tell us exactly what you went through when all of this was happening.
Okay, well, I wasn't actually in GameStop at the time. So I'm a pattern day trader, which means I have to have a minimum of $25,000 in my account at all times. And then I can trade as much as I want. I basically trade on a margin, which is borrowed money, because normally you have to have the funds settled and then you get to trade something else. That's kind of like the very easy version of it. All right. I traded too much. I lost one day, so I got flagged as a pattern day trader and I couldn't trade for 30 days. Cut forward to a couple weeks ago when all this Wall Street bets was going on, I was talking to my friend and I'm like, I really want to open up my comedy club again. I could probably do that faster than selling t-shirts if I just get back in the stock market. Right. So
it's a gamble. It's a gamble.
It's a gamble. I mean, you know what? Everything in life is a gamble, right? But there's this thing called due diligence. Right. Here's a great example. Here's a great example. I was in a company called Fuel Cell. I had 75,000 shares at 37 cents a share. Like a couple weeks ago, they went up to $25 a share, which basically means I would have $1.8 million if I had held that company. Right. I didn't hold the company because I opened up a comedy club instead. And then there was this thing called COVID. And
I may actually have a real studio at that point.
Right. Like I would help you buy a studio. I would be like down there. I would be helping you. I would help myself and I would invite you up to my studio. Right.
But
so
what happened?
So I got into the market and I got in probably like Tuesday afternoon. So all of this stuff was already going on. And at that point, GameStop was way too high for me to feel comfortable getting into. So I got into a share called Naked, NAKD. All right. And that was basically, I think Ben got into the share too. No, you didn't? Okay. So I'm in a share called Naked. And all of these, so it was, let me just check my notes here. It was GameStop. It was AMC, the movie theater. Actually, I got into that share first. I got into it for like $4. Went up to 25.
Was involved.
That was, AMC was involved. BlackBerry, Bed Bath & Beyond, Cost, Nokia, Sundial, American Airlines was involved.
Okay.
So,
and you're dabbling.
I'm not dabbling. I don't dabble.
Okay, so what do you? You're invested.
I am very, very aggressive. Okay, so I wake up in the morning on Wednesday morning. So I'm talking to my friend. I'm like, I just got to get back in the stock market. So I put what little I had left into the stock, into AMC. And in the morning, I wake up and I have $50,000. Right? Well, I waited because I figured it was going to go up, but it went back down. And the reason it went down is because these people start shorting it. Right. So
who's these people? Very important.
The hedge funds. And let's be very clear. Melvin Capital, to be specific, was the one that was shorting this the most. And they do these things called short ladder attacks, where they have computer bots that are basically buying and selling to keep the price low and to lower it. Right. It's illegal. It's illegal.
There it is.
First of all, let's just say this. It's illegal. It is illegal. I'm watching TV as this shit's happening, okay? And I'm watching CNBC, and the anchor's like, these consumers are colluding. These consumers are frauds. These people are uneducated. We should protect them. Let me explain something. It's my money. It's my money, right? If I want to go into the market and I want to gamble, or I want to invest, or I want to dabble, or I want to do this, or whatever it is that I want to do, it's my choice. If I lose money, they get to keep it.
Right.
Right. If I don't know what I'm doing, they get to keep the money. But
you went into this knowing that, correct?
Yes, you
accept all of those rules, correct?
I accept the risks. That is the risk of. Yes.
But there's a line here. And that line is illegality. So hold on a second. I want to bring Ben into this because I know Ben has a different perspective, and Ben is sitting and he's listening quietly and he's letting you be emotional. And he watched Wall Street, and he's sitting there and he said, well, stocks are not emotional. He's got the line ready. He looks like a young Gordon Gekko. So Ben, please jump in. Give me your take on what's happening so far.
Look, Judge Vinny, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm still figuring this out for myself. I feel like part of me is a socialist. The other part is an NFL owner. I don't know where I sit. But here's what I do know. I was very lucky with AMC. I bought 105 shares when it was at $2.33 a share, and I sold it when it was at roughly $14 a share. So it was a small principal, but I did well. I paid my rent for the next month off of my faith.
Beautiful.
In theaters.
And
so I'm in a unique situation.
And that's a great story. That's a great Main Street story. Okay, so go ahead. I want to hear your take, because you seem to be more of a casual investor compared to Jess. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, I mean, Jess probably has saved a lot more money than I have, and she has more money to invest. And so I do invest with what I have, but I don't have a lot to invest. I view it as I'm still learning how everything works. And I really am Robinhood's target. They want to find investors like me, get us hooked early, have us as clients. And Robinhood had earned my loyalty until the trading halt. And then I pulled out all of my assets from Robinhood and went to the register.
Okay. So now your initial reaction to what Robinhood did you feel that they were trying to protect you, which is what they pretty much said, Jess? That's what everyone was saying, right? They were there to protect their investors. Am I putting words in their mouth, Jess?
No, that's exactly what Vlad said. Okay. We want to protect the consumer, but we want to protect ourselves. And because of that, he didn't have enough capital for Melvin Capital to lose so much money because they lost $11.8 billion, right?
Okay, hold on.
We're going to get there. They had to fundraise.
But hold on, Ben. Now I'm going to go to you. Did you feel that you were being protected?
No. To answer your question point blank, they were not protecting me. They were protecting themselves, selves. Now, to answer Jess's point.
Yes.
There are several narratives we're seeing reverberate throughout the media, throughout public discourse right now. One of them, what I refer to affectionately as the sexy narrative, is the notion that hedge funds have colluded with Robinhood in cigar smoke-filled lobbies of back rooms where they're deciding that they're going to crush the little guy underneath the heel of their boot. A second narrative is that Robinhood had a liquidity crisis. Robinhood had essentially loans out to their investors in a 2-day interval where your stock ownership is really just a short-term loan that they couldn't afford.
Hold on. Let me hold you there.
I want to jump in on this. I have to. I have to.
Okay.
Because here's the thing.
First address the sexiness.
You're sexy. It's true.
No. Is this a smoke-filled room where all of this is?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So you don't take issue with that.
I do.
Okay. So tell me. Go ahead. First address the.
I think they are sitting in a. I think they are in a hotel. I can say a lot of really messed up things, but I won't because it's your show. But here's the thing, right?
Yes.
I think they're hanging out with each other and they're like, here's Melvin Capital is getting all of Robinhood data capital, right? Okay. So Melvin, Citadel owns Melvin, right? This is really important. Citadel owns Melvin, and Melvin, let me see, Citadel is the hedge fund that owns Melvin Capital and brought in $6.7 billion in 2020 trading revenue due to paying Robinhood for order flow. Now, the very significant thing about Robinhood is that you cannot short. You cannot short. So there are people that were making money on Robinhood buying this stock. I mean, shorting, the difference is with shorting, you think a company is going to do bad. And when you buy long, you think a company is going to do well, right?
Right.
And because of all of this stuff that you knew that the stock was going to go up because no one was selling. These guys couldn't short it. Robinhood wasn't shorting, were they? If they can't short, if no one can short, how are they losing money? If they're not in bed with the hedge fund.
Exactly. So the price was going up. Robinhood should have been fine. They stepped in and said, wait a minute, we're going to put a stop to this. And that's the real question. Why did they put it right? Why did they put a stop to something that was not against their own interest?
Right.
Ben, I'm going to let you take a shot at this.
So we're on Judge Vinny. We're in court. Evidence matters.
Court.
Emotionally, I am allied with you. Let's stick it to the man. Occupy Wall Street. You know what? All of it. Burn it all down. Let's move to Cuba. Party with Castro. I don't care. But the evidence matters. You know, the evidence matters. Robinhood owed $8.5 billion to the DTCC, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corp. They said, Robinhood, your bill has come due. You have all of these investors who have bought GameStop for $300. Therefore, you are responsible for backing that investment.
That
But
is true. That is true.
in the
That is true.
instance,
He's right.
the instance that GameStop would fall from 300 to 50, which is not at all out of the question,
It's kind of what happened.
Robinhood would be on the hook for $8.5 billion it doesn't have. And then not only are the traders who bought GameStop in trouble, but all the retail investors like me on Robinhood are in trouble because our assets, if they're cryptocurrencies and not FDIC insured, are gone.
Gone. All right. Now, before Jess jumps in, I want to bring up this point. So here is what David Portnoy says. He tweeted last week, I will burn at Robinhood app to the ground if they shut down free market trading. Almost immediately after the app put limits on the popular stocks. Mark Cuban also weighed in on Tuesday saying the same thing. So when we look at what Portnoy is saying, when Robinhood shut it down, they cut it back. Let's put aside why. They cut of the greatest source of demand. Okay, they created a Robinhood dive. So this is the question, okay? And I don't know if either one of us can answer it. Why did they do it? What was their reason for doing it? Because Ben makes a great point. Jess, you have a great point. This is what I think we need to get to the bottom of.
CYOA.
Is it just that?
I think
or
that's
is there something?
I think there's more going on, Judge Vinny.
There has to be.
I think what's going on is this. Robinhood has several revenue streams. One major revenue stream is retail investors like me. Right. Another revenue stream is the Citadel Capitals of the world.
Right.
The hedge funds.
But hold on. Before we go there, the retail investors like you, there's two things about you as a retail investor. One, they're not making a ton of money on you. Two, they are making a ton of money on you, not necessarily because of what you're trading and what you're doing. They're making money on you as an investor to see your trends, because the one thing that we do know, they take those trends and they provide them to the hedge funds. So what is the value of that? I think that's an important question.
That's a huge value. It's huge value because they can short the stocks. And listen, these guys go on.
Not them, but the hedge funds that they're giving
information. I'm talking about the hedge funds, and and the hedge funds short the stocks. And the thing is like you look at like Melvin Capital, you can look at Citron. There's a guy named Andrew Left who is a big, well-known shorter, and he'll literally write articles. Everybody who's in the stock market, if you're really serious about being in the stock market, knows like they're seeking alpha articles, and this guy will literally write. He'll be short on a stock. He'll write a scathing review about the company, then go on CNBC.
Well,
and
okay, now you're hitting on it.
Yeah, I know where you're going. And then he goes on to CNBC and he talks about it, right?
Yes.
And here was my biggest issue with everything that happened. Like, first of all, they only stopped allowing people to buy these certain stocks. Okay, there were like 11 to 15 stocks. They targeted these stocks. Because of Wall Street bets, because there was just too many people that were like, they did.
Let
me finish.
Hold on. Go ahead, Jess, and then Ben. Go ahead.
I believe that they targeted those stocks because they had the most volatility, and volatility is a really bad thing. There were people buying at the very top. Because there are people that haven't learned, like Ben was saying, he doesn't know a lot about the stock market. Like when I first started, I didn't know a lot. You did. You know what? I edit this videotape. I play it back.
Just make your point. Just make your point. Make your point, Jess.
So the issue is that they stop people from being able to trade these stocks. Now, going to Ben's point, there are people that trade on margin. So like when you short a stock, you're getting interest, right? But you can also short on interest plus margin. When you're buying a stock, you can get margin if you're over the $25,000 PDT rule, right? They'll give you up to 4 times the amount that you have in your account. So if I bought into GameStop at $300 and it went down to $100, which it does, I've just lost $200 and now I'm going to get a margin call.
Right.
And depending on how many shares I have, that's going to be a huge margin call.
But now back to Ben, because Ben is saying, hold on a second. They didn't just target these 11 stocks. There's something more at play here, Ben.
There is something more at play, and it's just more nuanced than we're trying to shut down retail investors because we hate people who have less money. It's just not that simple. Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, other brokerages did the same thing. Robinhood just fits the profile of a company billing itself literally as Robinhood, steal from the rich and give to the poor, target the retail investor. It's the best for the sexy narrative. It is the archetypical hypocrite of Wall Street. It makes for a very good villain. But if we peel back the curtain, it's not that simple. The reason why those were the stocks that got restricted was because those were the stocks that were creating the risk for Robinhood. They didn't have the money. Now, the more important question is, why did Robinhood decide that instead of taking out a loan from a Goldman Sachs or another financial institution to support the will of their client base, they decided to fold? But I can guarantee you that if it were the hedge fund taking out a risky short position, they're able to make that.
Well, here's what happened.
My key point is that's not Robinhood's fault. Robinhood is trying to make the system better.
But they're a player.
They're trying to make the system better for people like me, and they got caught up over their head, and they couldn't afford the credit that they had given to their clients.
Okay,
I think I think it's extremely corrupt system. Okay, let's just call it what it is.
But you have to say from where. You have to say from where.
I think it goes from the Fed. Like,
so
let's
SEC,
go back to 2008 when we had the big financial crisis, right?
Right.
And people were losing their houses because of poor loans, like the predatory loans.
Right.
And then they did the regulations. They had they had actual Wall Street regulations,
but
housing regulations,
and
those got undone.
Right. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Right.
They were all reversed.
Right.
Barney Frank, and Elizabeth Warren put those regulations. I don't remember what they're called off the top of my head, but they put those regulations into place. And then someone, I won't mention any names because I don't like him, someone decided to, who needs regulations? Well, everybody needs regulations. The corporations need regulations. We need regulations.
Hold on. Go ahead, Ben.
So the logic doesn't hold up because we're saying that the regulations were good. The Dodd-Frank post-2008 regulations were good. And then Trump deregulated and that was bad. And now look what happened. But the reason why what happened was because of a regulation, was because there had to be X percentage of the capital in question in the coffers of the brokerage. They were responsible for that $8.5 billion that they just didn't have.
That's true. But the reason why this happened is because a whole bunch of people called retail investors got together and said, we're not going to let you short us. That's the bottom line. And the worst thing about that is that we ended up being the people that were colluding and committing fraud.
Okay, but here's where I want to jump in because this is important what you're saying, Jess, and it's important from a different perspective. Okay, let's take the dollars and cents and the losses and the gains and start with what I always think is the most important aspect of this, the information and the exchange of information. Because what we had here is CNBC, MSNBC, we see all these shows and Bloomberg and Squawk Box, especially CNBC, it seemed like. We have these people that go on these shows and provide information with regards to stocks, with regards to trade. This stock is overvalued. This stock is undervalued. And that's allowed. However, when that same information was being exchanged on Reddit, not by experts, not by hedge fund people, just by these retail investors like Ben, all of a sudden, that exchange of information was deemed to be dangerous. Can either one, Ben, am I off base with that?
No,
that's exactly what happened.
And that to me is really where we have to look and say, well, hold on a second here. Okay, so we have this market. We know it's a dangerous place. We know that, look, is the playing field level? I don't think anyone can stand here and say it is. I don't really think you could do that. We know it's an unlevel playing field. What the degree of the slant is, well, that's when we get into regulations. That's when we get into, is the SEC doing their job? Is the Fed doing their job? However, here is always my problem, and it goes back to the very first episode of this show. When we let the media or when we let tech companies start to control the information And then that information, the spread of it, dissemination of it, or limiting of it becomes weaponized so that people are now restricted from doing things and not doing things with their own stock, with their own money. That, to me, is where we got into a really crazy, dangerous situation. So, Ben, you take a shot at that, then Jess, and then we'll wrap up the segment. Go ahead, Ben.
I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to say that short selling in general, I know that my friends across the aisle celebrate the free market like it's a deity. But short selling hurts the American economy. It's incentivizing the failure of a company traded on an American exchange. The other thing about short selling is when you invest in a company, there's a limit on your loss. If it hits zero, you can't lose anymore.
Right.
With the short, if the company's value keeps appreciating, you can lose unlimited amounts of money.
Right.
So I think we need to regulate short selling. I think it's that clear. You know, you have a lot of people on Wall Street who don't offer much to the American economy. They don't offer a product. They don't offer a service. They don't create anything. They take imaginary value and they reapportion it across exchange rates to enrich themselves, but they're not offering the American economy anything. And those people for far too long have pulled us all along while they get rich.
And listen, I'm going to jump on that and go a step further. You don't need to short sell the company because the market's going to adjust. If you believe the market and you believe that all of the assessments and the assets, the liabilities and everything else, the value of the company, it will adjust itself. You're going to have natural winners and losers just by the valuation of the company and when people buy in and when they sell, correct?
Yeah. And if you really are that addicted to this crazy variability of gambling, then bet on Nate Robinson's next boxing match. But you don't need to do it with such high stakes in the market because it really does affect a lot of people.
Jess, I know you don't want to get into the personal gains and losses that you suffered as a result of this, but you do have a personal perspective on this with regards to what's fair to a person like you. How can we make this fair to a person who wants to trade, make money and make a living, that is not a hedge fund person, yet you're not Ben Millennial coming in with, limited funds. No, and it's not a shot at Ben. It's just where he is. So how do we make this fair for you?
I think you have to regulate it. You have to make it so that I don't have a problem with companies that short stocks. That's part of the stock market. It has, I think in 2008, they suspended it for a while because of the economy. It was so bad. But that being said, I don't have a problem with people shorting stocks. What I have a problem with is that these people can they have billions and billions of dollars, right? They put in $15-20 million to short a stock. It's not going to hurt them if they lose it. But if I put in $10,000 worth of my money, that's all I have, right? And to go to your point, Ben, when you said, when it gets to zero, it's zero. That's not true because there's the thing called a margin. So if you have 10,000, and you're betting or I want to say betting and gambling because now I feel like a degenerate, but if that's
what it is,
there's due diligence. I'm going to go back to this because I don't think you were here for this. When I was in a stock called Fuel Cell in 2019, and I took my money out of the stock market because I was opening up a comedy club. I had 75,000 shares at 37 cents a share. I had been in this company for a while. I did an incredible amount of due diligence on this company, and I really, really believed in them. But because I wanted to open up this comedy club, I needed the cash to do payroll, that kind of stuff, right? These are investments. These are risks. You can call it gambling.
They're choices.
They're choices.
They're choices. Right? They're choices.
If I opened up a restaurant and I have to take credit on the restaurant to put in equipment, it's still a choice. It's still a risk.
Still a choice. Right.
I believe in myself. I believe in the due diligence that I'm doing. I think a lot of people were going into these things because it was a ride. It was like, if you get in at a good point, you could just go for the ride. I mean, the guy that did this was in it from December of 2019, which is when I started my club. He put in $50,000 and he made $44 million. So Going back to this company that I was in, 37 cents a share, 75,000. It went up to $25 a week or two ago. I would have $1.8 million right now. There were still, the shorting is still part of it. There were still, like, it would go up to 10, people would short it. It would go up to 12, people would short it, because they know you have the ups and downs of the market, right? That's why when the market crashes and you're in an IRA, your financial advisors say, don't look, it'll go back up.
But here's the question, Jess, and let's wrap on this. Ultimately, what you're saying is, look, there are people that are playing this game that have an advantage, and the advantage is their assets. They come into this game with more latitude as to what they can and can't do.
They control it. They control the game.
Okay.
That's not fair.
So there's the thing. Okay. So this isn't a question of, hey, look, we're coming in, you have more money than me, I have less money, but ultimately we have the same shot. You're saying you have more money than me, I have less money than you. If that's our only difference, that's fine. But you know what? There's something more going on here.
Yeah, you're getting fed. I don't have the information that they have. I'm not getting fed stats by Robinhood or any other trader. And it wasn't just Robinhood that shut down. There were like maybe 5 platforms that didn't shut down. Everybody else was like, you can't trade this. E-Trade didn't. Webull was like, we're going to not let you trade. And then they came back on and they're like, no, Robinhood's getting a lot of shit right now. You go ahead and trade, right? Because they didn't want to get caught up in it. And they were smart. Because if it's fair and it's democratized, then everybody should be able to trade.
All right.
My stock went down. I want to just say this. My stock went down 50% because of short sellers. And it should have never gone down that far. They just did an offering. The offering just closed. They have good news coming out. This is on the naked, right? I mean, and I can ride the waves, but I also know that, it's not the best company. So it's not valued at $100. If it went up to $100, that would just be luck. But if it goes up to $3 or $4, I think that's fair. But the short sellers are like, they keep it down. They're keeping it down so they can't get compliance, or they're just keeping it down. That's not fair.
You both made great arguments. It's time for me to get back with Michael, and we've heard your arguments, and me and Michael are going to come up with a decision, and then we're going to get back together and talk about things that we've invested in that maybe we wish we did. Michael, you heard the arguments from Jess and Ben, right?
Yeah, that was a lot to take in.
Okay. Now, there's a couple things at play here. One, look, I love my staff. You guys have become family to me. Jess obviously has emotional stake in this. She had skin in the game, and you could see it. You can hear it in her voice. This was personal. Ben is looking at this from the casual investor perspective, saying, hey, look, you know what? This is kind of what it is. So the question is there a stronger argument for either side, or is there something else that you see here at play?
Well, that's kind of 2 questions. So first of all, there's a lot going on. I'm just going to explain to you what I saw. I saw Ben as kind of the straight shooting, like this was a liquidity problem. The real inequality here is in the fact that short selling disincentivizes market success. I kind of agree with that, but I also think there was probably some corruption. Jess to me seemed a little bit conspiracy theory. We got Melvin Capital with Robinhood CEOs having sex on Jeremy Epstein's island with some computer. I don't know. It sounded like a little bit of some kind of the things you would hear on Reddit, but I also agree with her. I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors here. I think it's, for Ben to say that you have Robinhood, Fidelity, TD Garden all having a liquidity problem at the exact same time on the exact same day. Do all of them lack funds? I don't know. But again, we talked about a lot of things. It's kind of a cop out, but I think it's a little bit of both.
You know what? I actually agree with you, Michael. I think it is both. I don't think we can look at this and say, look, you know what? All of these companies are in bed together. The hedge funds have a tremendous amount of capital. They influence the market. They influence Robinhood. They influence everybody. Okay. And because of their influence on everybody, in the end, a decision had to be made. Who do we screw? Our retail investors, or do we screw our hedge funds? And in the end, you know what? The hedge funds are a little bit more important. Then there's this whole other take on, look, the hedge funds, although they have this billionaire investor feel to them, they also have money that they're holding that have teacher pension, cop pensions, and everything else. Then there's the other side of this, which is the retail side, which, hey, look, the one thing we say about the stock market is it is just that. It is a dangerous place. And the question that has always come up is, if you're playing in a game, look, if you go swimming with sharks and you're not a shark, you're at a disadvantage. And what Jess kind of admitted is, look, we're going in with a disadvantage. Well, if that's the case, then we have to do one of two things. Say that this is a place where this is a pool for sharks. Let the sharks swim in it. Or the government has to step in and say, look, this cannot just be a pool for sharks. We have to let everyone be able to swim in this pool. And the way to do it is we're going to put in regulations that make this playing field level, which even Ben admitted, look, we know it's not a level playing field. But the one thing that bothers me the most is the information, the control of information, and the way that information is used to manipulate all of this. And I think that's the most dangerous part. What do you say?
Yeah, I think that's a theme we've touched on in the show. Billionaires have a stake in the internet, and they control what information we see. And when you look this stuff up, you're going to be given a select amount of information, a scope, and that's what we use to trade. So.
Right. And the second the information was being exchanged somewhere else to their detriment, it got squashed. And I think, again, we keep going back to that first episode we started with this show, how important information is and how it becomes weaponized. Michael, thank you for your input. Yeah.
That's where I agree with Jess on the corruption. But on the other side of that, that's where I agree with Ben on the fact that I do think Robinhood is trying to democratize investing. And I would rather see a private company like Robinhood come in and do that than the government come in and put regulations on Wall Street.
Well, that's the thing. Look, we do need investigation here, and we need a real investigation. We can't have this be a political football. It seems that the left and the right finally agree that we have to jump on this, and they all seem to be on the same side. Let's hope that continues when they finally get the people from Robinhood, they get Vlad in front of Congress and say, hey, look, we have to ask some serious questions here, and we need honest answers. This can't be like what we saw with Twitter. This can't be like what we saw at Facebook, where it's this, let me get back to. No, we need answers on this, and we need those answers sooner than later, because look, this is a huge financial loss to a lot of people in a time where people can't absorb financial losses between hedge funds, between pensions, between everything else. Not the way to do it. Michael, thank you. Great input as always. You're going to join me along with Jess and Ben now, and we're going to break to the comedy part, as we always end on comedy. Things we've invested in that maybe we wish we didn't. So Jess and Ben, come back into Chambers. Let's get a little casual. Let's have some fun, and let's talk about some things that we wish we didn't invest in. All right. So now we have the whole cast and crew in my chambers. And listen, let's get a little comfortable. That's it. Work day is done. We've discussed all the big cases. Let's take off the tie. Let's kick back a little bit. Let's talk about things that we either invested in that we wish we didn't, things that we should short sale. I will go first. I'll throw this out there. Mine is going to be probably a little bit boring, but the one thing that I probably should stop investing in, that is my favorite baseball team, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Talk about a team that is always overvalued. Talk about a team that doesn't spend any money at all on their product. Let me tell you, GameStop could probably put together a better team than my Pittsburgh Pirates. If we got the clerks that worked at GameStop, I think they could put together a better roster of 27 players. I always find sports is this weird thing. I grew up a huge sports fan. I played sports. Investing in teams it seems to be almost like a lose-lose proposition, because when your team wins, you wind up spending money on all the shirts and stuff so it costs you money. And when they lose, well, you spent money on the shirts anyway, only you're not buying as many shirts because there's no championship shirts. So it seems to be a lose-lose proposition. All right, Ben, your turn in the barrel. What is the stock you should have never invested in, or someone should be short selling on you?
Well, Judge Vinny, I like to invest in love. I like to invest in things I can understand. So when I invested in KY lubricant jelly, I thought I was making a safe play. Ride the market up, the S&P, ride it up. But
oh my God,
Americans forgot how to love each other. They forgot how to love each other in suave, lubricated terms. We're left arguing. And KY,
if your dog winds
you're
up
out
in
of
this
business.
story the way it did last week with Michael, we're going to cut this show right here. This better not involve your dog or your dad.
Man.
Or your dad. I don't want dog or dad to come up in this story, Ben.
And coming up next, we have Bill Cosby and Jeffrey Toobin doing the polka.
Oh, Michael, your turn. What are we short selling on you? What are we not investing in anymore?
I hate to say it, but I think for me, the thing I would short sell, the thing that I would guess is going to decrease over time is my sex drive. Because every year I have a new surgery. I noticed this. I've had 4 surgeries and a bunch of operations in the last 2 years. And I hate to admit it, but the thought of having sex is less pleasing to me than the thought of drinking a glass of vinegar. So
your last name is Soraci. You're Italian like me. Are you kidding me? My sex drive is as lively as it's been since I was 13 years. What the hell's going on with Ben and Jess? Please help us. We're sinking here.
I'm going to not invest in this show anymore.
I think Michael's still traumatized from carrying the dog upstairs with a heart on. Jess, what do we have? Please give me something. What are we short selling on you?
I'm not going to invest in this show anymore.
That's terrible. Are you kidding me?
There's so many dick jokes.
We have no value as it is. We have no value as it is.
We're just growing. It's great. It's great.
We're not trading yet.
It's great.
Well, hopefully someone's going to invest in this show.
If I had to short something, it'd probably be my kidneys, because I just had a kidney stone. And and it was, it was awful. So
oh my God.
I don't have anything as like colorful as these guys.
I am the old guy on the show, and I am not complaining about sex drive or kidneys or anything else.
Yeah, Judge, can we talk later?
Yes.
I want to learn about what it's like to try to keep that libido up.
Yeah, tell us, Vince.
I mean,
shave my head. Will that make me feel?
See why there's no hair on his
Michael,
head?
that's why there's no hair. That's right. It's just constant testosterone. That's why I look like my own penis. Don't you understand? That is sex drive at its best.
I miss comedy.
Wow.
Listen, you guys are amazing. Jess, thank you for joining the show this week.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, it was an emotional plea. You suffered the loss. You came on. You talked about it. Ben, I always love your insight. And you're becoming a fast fan favorite on the show with all the comments. Michael, everyone loves my legal intern, Michael. Great job again. Everyone, thank you for joining us. Remember, like, follow, subscribe, share. Let's grow this thing. Don't listen to Jess. Don't short sell this show. It's time to invest in the Judge Vinny Show. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week with another episode.